Right, guys. Thanks for joining. It's just a quick setup. I wanted to do it next 1 or 2 hours from the scratch. If anyone has any questions or queries, you just we'll discuss here. This is just like generic discussion. This is just like a generic setup. Yeah, let's get with this one. Give me a second here. Yeah, so I have two nodes here, two server Oracle Lab 1 and Lab 2, both are ready. I can just gonna unzip and then these are my Linux server, brand new Linux server just installed. I'm just gonna unzip that Oracle Lab 1 and at the same time I can unzip that Oracle Lab 2 as well. Right, so both are getting unzipped. Lab 1 is done. Lab 2 also is getting unzipped here. Yeah, both are done, Lab 1 and Lab 2. So let's go here, add that. This is my Lab 1. I'll copy this path. I'll add that one here. This is my Oracle Lab 1. And then at the same time, I'll add my Oracle Lab 2 as well. Oracle Lab 2. Right, so both servers are ready. So these are like ready VMs, right? We are already available on our Google Drive. We just add both of them. Right, yeah, so once that you can just start them. Lab 1. Then that's Lab 2. Yeah. All right, so this Lab 1. I'll just log in with the root user. And then this Lab 2. I'll just keep side by side so that it make more sense which server I'm logging in. I have to click this not listed so that I can log in with the root user. Right, so both the servers are ready. This is Lab 2, I'll keep it here. Lab 1 is here. I can quickly take one terminal here, one terminal here. IF config, and then default getting 192.168.1.8, and then IF config. Default is getting 192.168.1.6. So these two IP addresses dynamically they're coming. They're coming because my internet range is 192.168.1.6. So what I can do now here, let's refer that. Okay, so these are my dynamic IP addresses which are coming from my network. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm just going to define my IP range like something like this. Let's go here. I'll take Notepad. Let's see, I can take IP address, like I can replace this one with 192.168.1. Replace all. Right, so I'll just go with the 192.168.1.8. like you can go with 1.0.0.1, 1.1.0.2, and then these are like whatever IP you can design. Let's see. I can replace this one with this. That's all. Right. So this is my public IP address 192.168.1.1.1, 102, and private IP address are like I'll just go with the 2.series and 2.101, 102, and then my VIP addresses I'll go with here like I went with 101, 102, and then 103, and then I'll make it 104, both the VIPs, and here I can make it 105, 106, 107. Right. So these are my IP addresses. I can change this host name here. Whatever this host node, I can replace with the Oracle Lab. So that these are my host names. Oracle Lab, Oracle Scan. Okay. Yeah, let's make it here. Right. So these are my two public IP address 1001, 1002, and then private IP address 1001, also 101, 102. Like if you can make a difference of private IP address which is in subnet 2. And then apart from that, my public VIPs and scan are all on the same subnet 1 dot. Right, that's correct. And then 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 5, 6, 7. And then I can change my host name here. Right, so Oracle Lab 1, localdomain.com, Oracle Lab 1, Oracle Lab 2, localdomain.com, Oracle Lab 2, Oracle Lab 1 private, localdomain.com, Oracle Lab 1 private, Oracle Lab 2 private, localdomain.com, Oracle Lab 2 private, and Oracle Lab 1 VIP, localdomain.com, Oracle Lab 1 VIP, Oracle Lab 2 VIP, localdomain.com, Oracle Lab 2 VIP, and these are my scan, Oracle Scan. Looks good. Yeah, with that, these are my IP addresses. Like I will go to my node 1, click on this application, system tool settings, and then go to my internet setting here, go to identity ENS S3. I'll make it ENS S3, and then private IP address, IPv4 manual. I can add those IP addresses. And then 255.255.255.0, and then gateway I can leave it blank, or I can give the same one .1, and then make it off and on. And then my private IP address ENS8, make it ENS8, IPv4 manual, and then provide your private IP address here 255.255.255.0, and then gateway I'll leave it blank for private, not anything. Make it off and on. And then same thing for host 2 also. I'll go to my host 2, go to application, system tools, settings, and then internet 1, that first interface, the IPv4 manual 255.255.255.0, and then gateway I can make it .1, apply, and make it off and on. Second private interface, make it this MAC address IPv4 manual, and then your private IP address is here 255.255.255.0, and then gateway I can leave it blank, make it off and on. Let's verify that ifconfig or IPA. So IPA will give you that IP address. ifconfig or IPA both will give the same output. So 1.101 and then 2.101. And then on this one here, I have config 1.102 and then 2.102. So both private and public IP address are intact now. And then since I'm using the same internet range here, so I should be able to have my internet connection. Ping google.com. Ping google.com. No, it's not coming. Service network restart. Service network restart. So ping google.com, not coming yet. So let's go back. And I'm going to remove that my gateway. Apply. Go back. Gateway, I'll remove it, apply it. Not coming. Let's go here. What we can do, I'll just check my internet range here. 192.168.1.5. Okay. Now, if that's the case, what we can do if your internet is not coming, we can quickly go here, go to setting here, and then network.
Hello,
and
teacher.
then, hello.
Yeah, sorry to disturb you. I'm just coming in now. I mean, I don't know if you can, if you haven't gone too far, if you can retract a little bit for me.
Yeah, I can do
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I'll just shut it down, and then what I can do, I can just go to my settings. I'll go to my network. I'll enable this new adapter, and I'll make it a bridge adapter, third one. Save it. Go to third one, second one, network. Go to adapter 3, enable it, make it a bridge adapter, and save it. So it doesn't matter 1, 2, 3. Like 2 is a minimum. You can use a 3 or 2, doesn't matter. And then now you can start it. Now you should be having the 3 interfaces. Let's log in with the root. Let's again root on the second server. Let's take a terminal, do ifconfig, and then you have ENS3, S8, and S9. So go to your system tool settings, and then your third interface, enable it, and you can give the same name, ENP0 S9. So this is your third interface here. Let's copy that one, and then you can use the same interface here. And then MAC address 9, IPv4 automatic, and then add it. Let's make it connected, apply it, it's connected here. And if I go ifconfig, so automatically the third interface will take a IP address for my internet. Same thing on the, if I go to second server, if I do ifconfig, and then I'll not be having any IP address for the third interface. So go to internet, network tools, so system tools, settings, and then the third interface here, click on this add, and then NS9, MAC address, and IPv4, it's a dynamic IPv4. Let's connect here, connect automatically, and then it connected here. If I do ifconfig now, so automatically it's going to take one IP address. Now if I do ping google.com, so I'll be able to ping my internet because of the third interface. Ping google.com, I should be able to ping Google, because of the third interface, which is IP is coming from my internet provider. Right. So you can use interface 1 and 2 with whatever IP you want. And the third interface, you can leave it for your internet access. Right. So that's the first thing. We have to define our IP addresses. And second thing is install Oracle star -- skip broken. So now I can connect to my server using PuTTY session. I can take this IP address 1001. I can use the PuTTY session and then I can connect. Root. Right, so node 1, 100.102 root. Password. Right, so both VMs are ready. Oracle Lab 1, Oracle Lab 1. Okay, even though it says Oracle Lab 1, let's see what it says. Oracle Lab 1. I need to change that host name. So to change that host name, you can just say host name CTL status, because that's a cloned VM, and then host name CTL set host name. I can change it as a Oracle Lab 2. Right, so now you can do host name. You can see your host name, and then you can host name and then reboot. Reboot is going to reboot your VM here, and then you can see that new host name. Right, so it started. Let's connect back again. Root. Most of the times, try to log in with the root when you're doing the setup, so that you no need to switch from one user to other user. Let's take a terminal. You got Oracle Lab 2. And then I'll connect back this terminal session here. This time it should be like Oracle Lab 2. Host name should get changed here now. Right, so got it. Oracle Lab 2, Oracle Lab 1, Oracle Lab 2, both are ready. And then I can do ping google.com. It's able to ping google.com. Internet access is available. Ping google.com. Yeah, internet access is available. So now I can quickly set these entries into my etc host file on both nodes, vi/etc hosts. Save this one, and on the node 2/etc hosts. Right, save this one. And now I can do this next one, install Oracle star -- skip broken on both the nodes. Right, yes, yes, node 2. So I'm going to install all the prerequisites RPM here. Right, so once that is done, next one will be like, I'm going to disable the firewall. And then after that, I'm going to install my bind RPMs in order to make my DNS server. So I'm going to install the bind RPM for my DNS server. Right, so it's going to take a few minutes here. You can take a duplicate session if you don't want to wait and you want to do parallel activities. Once this RPM is getting installed here, you can take a duplicate session of your servers, because you can take n number of sessions for that Linux server, and then you can parallelly do other activities. Right, so I got 2 more sessions here. and then I can do this firewall status and I can disable it. Node 1, and then it's running. Firewall node 2 is running. So let's go ahead and then check this one. Firewall is running. Local firewall is running on that host. I'm going to stop that firewall on node 1, and I'm going to stop it on node 2, and then I'm going to disable that firewall permanently. I don't want that firewall to get started again. Right, so firewall got disabled here until your RPM is getting installed here. After that, let's wait for a few more minutes to get complete here. So what we're trying to do here, we're trying to achieve 2-node RAC with these are the IP addresses. Host name 1 is here. And then host name 2 is here. These are my 2 host names. And then these are my IP addresses for that host. Right, and then these 2 hosts are like public IP addresses. And then internally they have private IP addresses. I can say these are my private IP addresses. I can put it here. This is my one of my private IP addresses is here. And then this is my second node private IP addresses here. And then those IPs are in a different subnet. Right, so these are like private interfaces. These are public interfaces. And then at the same times, these 2 have a VIPs. So this node 1 has this VIP. And then this node has VIP2. And then the respective or associated VIP IP address is 3. And then this is 4. And then we have this scan name here. I can provide somewhere here my scan name. And then that scan has these 3 IP addresses. All the connections first will go to scan, and then from scan 6 and 7. These are my scans. That's the setup I'm trying to do. So this private interconnect will happen to this private IP addresses. And then all the scan is going to take my public connections. This particular scan is going to take my public connection. And then these are like, these all are in the same range, same network. Right, and then let's put it here. So these are these 3 are like, whatever this whole shape, these are like my public network, all are in the same range, 1 dot series. These are like private interconnect for node to node communication. Right, so let's keep it that diagram here. So my M install Oracle star is done here on both the nodes. So by this time, my Oracle user will get create on both the nodes, node 1, node 2, right? And then also we disabled firewalls. Now I'm going to install my bind RPM on both the nodes, node 1, node 2. So I'm going to install a couple of RPMs, almost 27 RPMs. It will be very quick. So once that bind RPM is installed, so we're going to do that name resolution. That will be here. So we're going to prepare our etc result.config. We're going to keep that our Oracle lab 1 as my domain, my DNS server. Right, so I'm going to set this on both the nodes. The simple way to set it is you can use this this greater than symbol cat etc.com, and then you can set it over here. Right, so I'm just gonna run it on both the nodes, node 1, node 2, and I'm just gonna copy paste it. It's gonna Instead of going into VI and then creating, it's a shortcut command. And then paste it over here and then cancel it. So you just cat that now. You can see that Oracle Lab 1. These are like shortcut commands, right? So both the nodes are result.config is ready. Now we're gonna edit my name.config on both the nodes. VI name.config. So I'm gonna put IP address over here. I'm just gonna do it on the same time on the other node as well. VI. So first one is listen on. I'm gonna put my DNS server name here. That's my node 1 IP address. That's a node 1 is my DNS server now. I'm just gonna put my node 1 IP address here with the colon at the end, and then allow all. I'm just gonna put my subnet range here. It should be 0/24. That's your subnet. I'm just gonna copy the same thing here. I'll put it on the node 1 as well. Right, and then my DNS IP address here, 101. So this is one thing, like, we're gonna put our here, like you can provide a space or don't provide a space, doesn't matter. I just want to put space and here, right? And then after that, we're gonna put 2 forward zones and reverse zones. These are my forward zones and reverse zones here. I'm just gonna mention that forward zone and reverse zone on this zone here. And then on node 1 also, go down all the way in this zone section here. You can mention your forward zone and reverse zone. Right, save it. That's it. That's your DNS configuration. And then we're gonna create my forward zone and reverse zone file here. So I'm just gonna put here my forward zone and my reverse zone is here. So in this forward zone, so let's change this host name with Oracle Lab, replace all. And here in this forward zone, my Oracle node 1 is my domain, and then I'm gonna node 1. So whatever the IP address, I'm gonna change it now here. 192.168.1. This is the IP range. Right, so go back here. My node 1 will be 101. My node 2 will be 102. My scan will be, what's the scan one? Scan will be 10567. My scan will be that one here. My forward zone is here. My node 1 101, node 2 102. My private IP address will be like 2.2. And then 101 102. My VIP will be 103 104. Scan will be 105 106 107. These are like scan. And then in the reverse zone, my node 1 will be 101 102. Scan will be 105 106 107. And then again node 1, we're going to give just 101 102, and then 105 106 107. So these are my forward zone and reverse zone. So again, I'm just gonna do this cat. I'm not going to use VI. Just do cat, this greater than symbol, and then I'm just going to copy paste this. The same command, I'll run it on node 1, and then I'm just going to copy paste all this content. Instead of going VI and then doing this, just cancel it here after paste. Right, and then you can cat this file. This file will be ready. Same thing, cat on the node 1. This file will be ready. Same thing for this reverse tune also. Just do cat greater than this file. Same thing you do it on node 2. And then you can copy paste this. Cancel. Cancel. And then you can cat that file. That file will be ready. So on the node 2 also, that file will be ready. But that's your forward tune and reverse tune what we created. And then now what we can do when this is done. So I'm going to set the password for my Oracle user. Anyway, that Oracle user got created, but I need to provide the password for that. Passwd Oracle user command to change the password or set the password for that Oracle user. Node 1. I'm going to set the password. Node 2. I'm going to set the password. Right. So once that is done, next will be once the password is set. So next will be what? Okay, next I can start my named service, and then I can check that NS lookup. Service named restart on both the nodes. Node 2, node 1. Right. So if your service getting started, it means you're good now. So now you can easily do NS lookup cat etc host. So this is your node 1. You can simply do NS lookup node 1, NS lookup node 2, and then NS lookup and your scan name. So if you're able to do all this from both nodes, that's more than enough to start with your installation. Node 1, node 2, and then your scan. Okay, scan is not happening because we made a mistake here. We mentioned host scan in our name.resolve here. So forward join and reverse join. That's a mistake. So we have to give that scan name as Oracle scan. Right? That's a mistake what we did. That's why I know if you do NS lookup, it will not work out for that. Let's go ahead and edit them quickly. Where is the file? First forward join. This is the host scan. You want to change it. Replace the command, OS command, %s / whatever this host scan. I want to replace with Oracle scan. So that's the replace command. Like %s host scan. I want to replace with Oracle scan globally -g. Right. So it will get change all entire file. Same thing with this file here. Colon %s. I want to replace this host scan with my Oracle scan / globally. Done. So I'll change here. Let's save this one. Right. So now I'll do the same thing on the other node as well. %s. I want to replace my host scan with this Oracle scan, and then globally. Done. Save it, and sometimes change the other files. I want to replace my host scan with Oracle scan. So this is your scan name what you defined. Save it. Done. So now you can restart one more time your named service. Where's the named service? Okay, service name restart here, and service name restart here, and then you can do NS lookup of your scan. It should work now here. Right? It is resolving all 3 IPs. And then same thing you do it from node 2 as well. Node 1 NS lookup is working. Node 2 NS lookup is working, and your scan, all the 3 IPs are resolving. So we are good now. So all the prerequisites almost done here. Now what we can do, I'll quickly go to my server here. I can go to the settings I can go to saved folders. I can click on this plus symbol. Right now, if I go to node 1 here, if I do df-h, I don't see any software here. Since I have my 19C software here, 19C database software, grid software, both are available here. I'm going to mount this saved folder into my node 1. So I'll go to my VM settings here. That's a node 1 settings. Like go to VM1 settings and then go to saved folders, click on this plus symbol, and then you can browse your software and then give whatever name you want and then select it. Okay, done. So go back to your server here, do df-h. Now you got your media SF software, which is of around 300 GB. That's entire your C drive from your laptop. Everything is mounted here. If you just go inside that, you're going to get all the software. Your lab 1, lab 2, 19C software, DB software, grid software, your lab 1, lab 2, all this. Whatever you're seeing here, all this you're going to see it over here. But only thing is it will be accessed by only root. So you cannot access with the Oracle user. Right, so now what we can do, mkdir-p/u01 app 19.0.0.0/grid. So this is the directory, grid directory I'm going to create, and then I'm going to create my Ora inventory. So Ora inventory and then grid directory, both I'm going to create it on both the nodes as a root user. One is inventory directory, one is a grid root directory. So now after that, ch-own-r/u01. So the moment you give ch-own for u01, underlining all the directories will be owned by your Oracle user. Right. So I'm just going to do change ownership for that u01. I will be changing to Oracle user on both the nodes. Right. So that's done. So now what we can do, I can directly go into my software directory here, and then I can go into my grid software. This is my grid software. If I do ll, this is my grid software. I can directly unzip this one into my DB software. Unzip this grid software into my grid directory, grid home directory here on node 1, only on node 1. So since you are unzipping with the root user, so what you need to do, you need to change the ownership after that to Oracle user or the grid user. cd ch-own-r Oracle:/o install grid. So I'll just go up to u01 app 19C. After going here, I can change that entire grid home permission to Oracle install with a recursively. This -r means inside this grid home directory, whatever the subfolders files, everything will get changed to Oracle user. Right? That's the reason, once you unzip with the root user, you have to go to that grid home 19C, not inside grid home, up to 19.0.0, and then change the ownership. Great. After that, we're going to install RPM. This is the prerequisites RPM, which will be inside my 19C grid home. And then I'm going to install this CVU RPM. Let it complete this one.
Hello, Mr. Malik.
Yep.
Is the CVU RPM for ASM?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
It's going to take little extra time because you are unzipping from your laptop or the C drive or D drive to your VM using that saved folder concept here, right? So saved folder is very, very important. You can make use of that. Right. Right. So unzip is done here. So now I'll go to same straight away, like directly to CD grid. So LL, I have only this grid folder. If I go inside grid and then do LL, see all of them are owned by root. Why it is owned by root? Because we unzip that software with the root user. All of them are owned by root. So I can go back one directory, PWD. You are into user on app 19C. So we're going to directly change that ownership. So I'm just going to run that command, chown-r grid, or go with Oracle, whatever you want. Like I'm going to go with Oracle user for both grid and database. Okay, sorry. That's my bad. So it's a grid directory. I'm changing it to Oracle user. It's only on the node one. So you don't need to do it on the other node. Done, that's done. So now we can go ahead and install your RPM. Go to your grid home, CV RPM. You have this RPM here. Go ahead and install that RPM. So and then meantime, you can copy this RPM to your Oracle Lab 2 under temp directory. Right, if I go to node 2/temp, I have this RPM -ivh, and then you can install that RPM on the other node. Right, so you installed RPM, that's good. And now we need to enable that passwordless connection. If I log into Oracle user here on node 1, and if I do SSH node 2, it will be asking password for all the time. So for grid setup, one of the prerequisites is if you log in from node 1, if you do SSH node 2, it should not ask any password, directly it should connect. For that, we're going to generate something like this. Right, so we're going to go into SSH directory of each node 1 and node 2. Right, so I'll go here, node 1, and then SU Oracle, node 2, SSH Oracle Lab 1, sorry, Oracle Lab 1, yes. Right, so just exit back. Now go into this SSH here, and then we're going to generate this SSH keygen on both the nodes as a Oracle user. Just enter, 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 enter. So we're going to generate this public key. Same thing, SSH keygen on node 1. Just give enter, enter, and then it's going to generate this public key. So this public key, if I do cat, this is a node 1 public key. I'll just copy it to notepad here. And then on the node 2, this is a node 2 public key. I just want to copy that node 2 public key here. So if I can copy here. So node 1 and node 2 public key both already. I can create one file called authorized_keys. And then I can put both the keys into that single file. So that will help you for establishing this passwordless connection between node 1 and node 2. VI on node 1 can add those both the keys. Right, so then save it. So now you can do from node 1 SSH, node 2 able to connect without password. Go to node 2 SSH, node 1, you're able to connect without password. That's a simple way to establish your passwordless connection between node 1 and node 2. Right, so once that is done, we can do that run Cluffy pre-check. So the run Cluffy pre-check is here. Run Cluffy stage pre CRS install node 1 and node 2. Node 2 and your node 1. So this is your run Cluffy pre-check. So I'll go to my node 1 CD U01 app 19C grid. So ls, you have this run Cluffy pre-check here. So I'm going to use that run Cluffy. I can run it on node 1. So just cancel it here. First thing itself, it failed. The default inventory group is not set. So the default inventory group. So there's I need to log in back with the root user, and then let's see. I can give you that complete. Right. So this is a default entry of your. That was the error message, right? Like what you saw here. The default inventory group is not determined. So for that, we have this fix here. So etc or inventory, we are going to give U01 app or inventory, and then O install is your default group. So we're going to create this file with that inventory group, node 1, node 2, and then you have to mention this inventory location and inventory group on both the nodes. Node 2, and then it's on node 1. If I do cat, right? So I got my inventory location on node 1, inventory location on node 2. That's on node 1 again. Log in back to Oracle user, go into your grid DOM, run the run cluster again. Default inventory group Y again. Let's see. Cat.
The permission part, because you created in the root now.
Chmod 755. Exit. Let's go to grid DOM, run the run cluster again. No, could not be determined. Let's see, we can check that one.
I think there is a double slash.
Oh yeah. That's correct. All right. Here it's a double slash here. Let's try one more time. Okay, I'm a root user. I don't have right access. vi/etc or inst.loc. Save this one. Run it. All right, it's going fine now. Let's change it here itself. Node 2. vi. These are like small mistakes. Like, should be very careful. Otherwise, like will be like it will be like misleading. So we'll be thinking of permission, and then it's not really permission issue. It's a double slash. Right. So after that, what else? Right. Going on. A lot of fail checks and other things, but at the end, it's going to give you a summary, and then you can review that summary. Right. So this is a summary. Yeah, the pre-check for cluster setup was unsuccessful, and these are the failures. So it says insufficient memory. Required physical memory is 8 GB, but I assigned around 7 GB. I'm fine with that. So I can ignore this one. And then it says group ASM admin, and then ASM DBA, and then ASM admin, ASM DBA. These groups are not using, so I can ignore that because I'm not using those groups. And then it says 192.168.2.101, 2.101. Okay, connectivity failed with ENPS 8, NPS 8. Node connectivity between this network is failed. This is very important. So we should check this one, why it is failing. We can check that one. right? And then, okay, this is also same. Our private network, it is complaining. Okay, this is not the private network. We can ignore this one. We're not using this 192.168.122. We're not using this one. We can ignore this. Again, we're not using this one. We can ignore this as well. And then this is important. Like we're using this 192.168.2.101, 2.101. Right, and then NTP we're not using. We can ignore that. etc result.conf, we are ignoring that because we're not, we know that we have a identical etc result.conf, but in our lab it is always complaining. Ahoy daemon, like OS process, we're not using this one. And then this is information RPM package, so we can ignore this. So only thing is we need to think through our private network, why this is private network is ping is not working. Let's see. Cat etc hosts ping. Right, so node 1 I can able to ping. Node 2 it is not pinging. That's fine. Let's go to node etc hosts. Ping node 1 not happening. Node 2. The same node is able to ping, but remote node is not able to ping. VIPs, let's see, node 1, same thing, it's not used, it will not be able to ping. Okay, let's go back one more time. What checker is doing here? TCP connectivity from node 2, 2.2.2 on node 1, node 1 failed. Let's check this one. I can ping this error message. You can, when somebody want to take a look, just take a look on that. I'm searching in Moss here, Oracle support.
I think we should have the same this way for this private network.
Let's check it out. Now route to host. Okay, 103. Okay, got it. Like, let's see what we can do. I know what's the issue. I'll go to my settings here. I do shut down my both the VMs. Shut down. Power off VM1. Power off your VM2. And then I'll go to node 1 settings. Go to network. Node 1 bridge adapter. Node 2 make it as a bridge adapter. That's it. Go to node 1 settings. Network. Node 1 adapter 1 bridge adapter. Adapter 2 make it as a bridge adapter. That's it. You can power it on. That's a culprit. Make it small. This is node 2. I can directly go to my servers. I can directly connect. Node 1, node 2, root, password, root, password. Right, so let's log into Oracle user. And then cat etc result.conf. It's gonna get changed automatically. So Again, I need to do that one. etcresult.conf. I should have taken the backup, but I have not done that backup. Let's see, this time I can do that after this. Node 1, I can set it. Node 2. Okay, exit. So one thing is like best practice always you can change. I can take a backup of all this configuration file, whatever we did, so that next time when it starts, so we no need to worry for that. One thing, this file, and second one is your Jones cat. Yeah, it's intact. Backup and node 1 as well. And second one is your reverse zone. Where's the reverse zone? Here is the reverse zone. Cat. Right. So CP backup and node 2 as well. And then cat/etc name.config. Yeah, this is intact. So you can take a copy of that. CP backup node 2 and then node 1. Right. Service named restart. Node 2 as well. Done. So now you can log into a grid user or Oracle user, go into your grid home and run the run cluffy again. This time we should not see those error messages. So let it go on. Meantime, we can create a 3 disks, 3 GB and then 20 GB and then 10 GB. So 3 GB for my OCR disk group and 20 GB for my data disk group and then 10 GB for my record disk group. For that, I can go here, files, media manager, and then create a disk, VDI, and fixed in size. And then I'll go on the same location. I'll go on this location here. So OL/, I can go with the disk 1, which is of 3 GB. Right, so this is my disk 1, 3 GB. Create. Right, disk 1 got created. And then make it as a shareable. Apply. Create, VDI, fixed in size. Next, go with the disk 2, which is of 20 GB, and then create. So now you got your disk 2 here. You're gonna take, because it has to allocate the 20 GB from your C drive or the D drive. You're gonna take some time based upon your disk IO speed. Right, so disk 2, make it as shareable, apply. And then again create, VDI, fixed in size, and disk 3, which is of 10 GB, apply. Right, you got your third disk here. Again, make that as a shareable. Right, this is disk 3, make it shareable, apply, close it. All disks are ready here now. So go back here now. Again, pre-checks are unsuccessful. These are the failures. Physical memory, I can ignore. And then these are the groups, ASMDBA, ASMDBA, and OSASM. So ASMDBA, like these are the groups I can ignore. And then you can see now the network issue. It is like 192.168.122. I'm not using that network. I can ignore this. And again, this is 122. Again, I can ignore these 2 checks because I'm not using at all. NTP I'm not using. And then etcresult.config, it is same, but it is lab, always it's the issue. So I can ignore that. Apart from that, we are good now. So we are good to start with installation. Okay, now we created a disk, and then these are like virtual disk. We have to use something called Oracle ASM configure -I, and after that Oracle ASM check that configuration, and after that Oracle ASM init. So this is for loading a library, this is for ASM configuration, and this is to check that ASM configuration. So on node 1 as a root user, run that one. Who is the owner for your ASM? Oracle is the owner. Who is the group? Who install is a group. Do you want to load your ASM library on the server reboot? Yes, I want to load. You want to scan your ASM disk on the server boot? Yes, I want to scan them. That's it. The same thing on node 2 as well. Oracle is a owner for grid. Who install is a group. And I want to load the library. I want to scan the disk. That's it. So next is your Oracle ASM configure. So you're gonna give the same output, whatever we just gave. And then one time you have to load your ASM libraries. So this is your ASM libraries you mounted and loaded. Right. So this is your dev ASM and disks. Right now you don't have any ASM disk. So I have this 3 disk. I need to add them. Just now I created a 3 disk here. I need to add those 3 disks. If I go back to my media manager, these are the 3 disks. I need to add it on both the right. So it should be shareable. At disk 1, shareable, disk 2, shareable, disk 3, shareable. All are shareable now. So now I need to bounce, because without that you cannot add it. So go to storage. It will not allow you to add it here. So I'll just bounce it. Bounce means like just close this one. Like just close your VM. So VMs are down now. Right. So now I can directly go to settings, node 1, storage, go here and then add those disk. Disk 1, disk 2, and then disk 3. All the 3 disks you added on node 1. And then you can see all these 3 disks which are in shareable. Disk 2, settings, storage, add disk 1, add disk 2, add disk 3. So all these 3 disks are added. Okay. So your lab 2, all 3 disks which is shareable. You can start it now. Node 1, node 2. Right. So now you have added 3 disks. That will be like dev, SDB, SDC, and SDD, which is 3 GB, 20 GB, and 10 GB. So now we're going to do F disk, those SDB. We're going to format those disks, partition those disks, SDC and SDD. Once we format, we're going to use Oracle ASM, create disk ASM disk 1 using the formatted SDB1. So we're going to create ASM disk from that OS disks. So I'm going to create ASM disk 2, ASM disk 1, ASM disk 2, ASM disk 3 from your B1, C1, and D1. So these are the 3 disks, ASM disks you're going to create from those OS disks. Go back here, connect one more time. Connect one more time your putty session. Always try to use your putty session or mobile term, so that's a user friendly, like, you can directly, the copy paste will work here rather than if you want to use this terminal sessions here, every time you have to copy paste all the commands. Here you no need to copy paste. In putty session, the moment you select this one, it will automatically copy and then you can directly paste it. Yeah, so let's go back here. I'm gonna do this formation now. Like if I go to node 1 /dev LLSD star, I got BCD, and node 2 /dev LLSD star, same disk BCD. So all the 3 disks are ready, 3 GB, 20 GB, 10 GB. I'm going to use something called fdisk OS formation, OS partition. So I'm going to go with the new partition, primary partition number, primary sector, last sector, and then W is for save. LLSD star, like B got formatted or partitioned with B1. Same thing with disk C, new partition, primary partition, partition number 1, first sector, last sector, W is for save. LLSD star, you can see C is formatted, partitioned with the C1. Now is a D, SDD. New partition, primary partition, partition number 1, first sector, last sector, W is for save. LLSD star. So we got SDD formatted or partitioned with SDD1. So once you format your disks, partition your disk, you're going to create ASM disk. Disk 1 got created, ASM disk 1, ASM disk 2, and then ASM disk 3. Done. So this is your ASM, like dev, Oracle ASM disks. So you can see all the disks, 3 disks got created here. So on the node 2, you don't need to create. You just do Oracle ASM scan disks, Oracle ASM list disks. So these two you can do it here on the node 2. Automatically detected all the 3 disks. Right, all 3 disks are node 2 and node 1. Both the servers ready with the disks. So now I can directly go ahead with the grid run cluster is done. So I can directly go to my grid DOM and I'll do grid setup. So that'll be here. Go back here, CD, and then run grid setup.sh. So for this one, you have to log into server. This is a server, the GUI mode with the Oracle user directly. Let's go here. Right, so I can directly log in with the Oracle user and the password. So once you log in directly Oracle user, automatically it will set a display for you, the GUI screen for you. So open terminal. First time when you log in, this welcome screen will be there. You have to do this for the first time. Right now, go to U01 app 19C grid. Done, like ls. This is your grid setup.sh /. So every time you have to copy and then paste it. If you're working on this terminal, you have to manually copy paste. But when you're working on here, you directly select it. It will auto copy. Grid setup.sh. You're going to launch the GUI screen. Right, so configure grid infrastructure for a new cluster. And then this is like standalone cluster. These are like different other clusters. We're not using it. We'll go with a standalone cluster. And you can give Oracle cluster. So it should not be more than 15 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I can go with the Oracle cluster or Oracle cluster. It should not be more than 15 characters. And then scan name, Oracle scan, right? You have to give that local domain, whatever, like with the full name or short name doesn't matter. So this is my scan name, etc hosts. So this is my scan name, Oracle scan localdomain.com. I'll just give that one, Oracle scan localdomain.com. Port default, I'll go with 1521. This is Oracle cluster. You're going to validate that NS lookup and all those things. Right, so this node 1, the default it will detect. Copy it, add the other node, your node 2, and then VIP of that node 2. Node 2 hyphen VIP. Add it like node 1, node 2, localdomain.com, node 1 VIP, node 2 VIP, localdomain.com. That looks good. And then go next. You have to log in directly with the Oracle user and you have to run this grid setup. If you log in with the root and then do switch user to Oracle, then your display will not set. Testing that passwordless connections and inventory, validating your public, private IP address access. You're going to see this one, right? 192.168.1 dot, that's a public, and 192.168.2.0, that's a private. That's your interface 1, interface 2. Interface 3, again, it is same public network, but we're not using it. So the second interface, you can make it a private or ASM and private, both are same private one. And then I'm going to go with the flex cluster for storage. That's my ASM. I'll not configure my management database. And then I have to change my discovery path. If I go back here, so these are my ASM disks: dev, Oracle, ASM, and disk. So I have to give this path so that I'll just copy it, go back here, change the discovery path, change it over here, /star. You're going to see all the 3 disks: ASM disk 1, disk 2, disk 3. And then I'll go with the external redundancy. I can make it OCR. I'll select disk 1, which is of 3 GB to store my OCR and ASM password file and ASM parameter file with the external redundancy. Right, so the password for sys and sysnmp, sys ASNMP. So I'll just give same password for both. Next. And then IPMI, I'm not using that. That's a console access. EM core control, I'm not registering my ASM to enterprise manager. Go next. And then default, I'll go with the O install as a group for everything. Go next. And then it says you have selected O install for everything. Do you want to continue? Yes. And then your Oracle base, Oracle home, that's your grid home. And now we're going to do that same pre-checks. The root script, I'll do it manually. Go next. So it's going to do the same run Cliffy check, whatever the run Cliffy check, what we did here. Where is that one? Here. And this is all the run Cliffy check, whatever we did. I'm going to do the same thing for you here. Right, so let's go and garden. Right. So again, these checks are ignorable, like physical memory. Hawaii daemon, I'm not using the RPM package, that's the information only. And there's NTP I'm not using, that the DNS or resolve.config, we're not using that. So we can ignore all of them. Just go ignore and proceed further. And then this is your response file. Your grid infrastructure installation for new cluster, your Oracle grid infrastructure base, your grid home, your groups, root script execution, management is none, your grid infrastructure setting, the standalone cluster, your cluster name, node name, scan type is local scan, your scan name, your port, and your public interface and private interface, and your storage is ASM, and then group is OCR, external redundancy, this is a disk. So just save that response file and then install it. So we're going to prepare the local node, it will install on the node 1 and then copy it to the remote nodes, and then it'll prepare that remote node, and then it'll ask you to run the root script. Let's go to node 1, take a duplicate session. Right, and then this is the log file here. Copy that, go back here, and then tail-f. You can tail that log file. I'll just make it a minimize so that you can monitor your log as well as you can see your screen here. Now it is transferring your software, copying your software to your remote nodes. That's your node 2. You can see copying file to your remote nodes, 10% completed. If I go to my remote node here, cd u01 app 19c grid ls, you can see all the software is coming here on that remote node. 30% completed. %, 70%, 80% completed, 90%, 100%. So node 2, it copied the software and it is doing a setup on that node 2. It's running all those relinking, library linking, and all those things. Right? Prepare, set up your Oracle base, run the root script. Right. So it's asking you to run this root script here on node 1 and node 2 as a root user. Copy this script here and then go to your node 1. This is my node 1. And then as a root user, I'm going to run that user on app 19c grid root.sh. This is very, very important script, which is going to form your clusterware as well as it's going to start your ASM. And then it's going to give that one more log file for this one. All right, so this is a log file. Go to that node 1, tail that log file here. I didn't want to do the same thing. This is totally 19 steps it's going to do that to form your clusterware and to start your ASM instance. And then at the end, it's going to run like hundreds of commands. Like you can, in the mobile system, you can split your window in a 2 terminals horizontal split. And then in that, you can do here, I want to see my screen 4 here. And then on this one, I want to see my last screen. So this is your log file, and then this is your root execution. Parallelly, you can watch it. Right, so you can parallelly watch both the screen, which is what's happening. You're going to start now, start your CRS in exclusive mode. And then it's going to create your voting disk OCR file. And then later it's going to do that cluster bounce and it'll start it in normal mode. But you can see this is going to create your OCR disk group here. This is the command snca silent disk group with this disk with the external redundancy, and this is your disk string. With that, once it create a OCR like disk group, it's going to create your OCR file and your voting disk on that disk group. And then this is your ASM password file. Default don't take allocation unit as a 4 MB. ASM has been created and started successfully, and this is a log for that. OCR config upgrade. I can see it created your booting disk. Right now it is stopping your cluster, which is started in exclusive mode. After that, you're going to do the clean startup in a normal mode. You can see it's going to start here, CRCTL start CRS, which is in a normal mode, not in exclusive mode. You can see starting your cluster, step number 17. Right, it's going to take a few minutes. Right, so successfully started your Oracle Clusterware stack, and you're going to do that node configuration. It'll be done in a minute. You can see root CRS on the first node. This is your first node. Always, like as I used to say that, always tail your installation log, which will give you more information. We don't know, like by looking at this, whether it is progressing or stuck, we don't know. By just looking at a log, you can understand it is going on, it is doing some tasks. Doing a start your scan listeners. QMOS servers. Right, so doing a final step, step number 19, post configuration checks. Done, almost done. It's doing all the post checks here. Done. So configuration of your grid infrastructure for a cluster succeeded. Right, so same command, we're going to run it on the node 2. So I'll just take second session here. This is my node 2. I'm going to run that on node 2. Just enter. And then here, I'll just cancel this one. I'll connect to my node 2. And then I'm going to tail this log. This is the log file on node 2. Tail-f. And the same thing, step number 19. Step number 9 already out of 19. Step number 19, your OLR local registry configuration. Node 2 will be much more faster because it's not going to create any voting disk or OCR. It's going to just add that entry into your existing already formed cluster on that node 1. Right, so it's already came to step number 14, 15, 16. Right, so it's going to see, it's going to start your cluster directly. It's not going to form your new cluster. Already cluster is formed. See, it's going to do start cluster. CRCTL start cluster. Only that node 1, it will take more time because of it has to do it from the scratch, everything. So meantime, yeah, it's already started, almost done, like step number 18 and 19, it will be done. Yeah, let it complete. We can do that one. Next step will be like, we'll create 2 more disk groups and then we'll finish that database installation. That'll not going to take much time. Okay. So grid infrastructure installation succeeded on node 2 as well. I can just remove the split window to single window. On node 2 ps-ef grep smon. You can see your asm2 here, and then .orinv. I can set it environment to plus asm2 and my grid home, and then crsctl stat resource -t -init. So all the resources are running here, node 1 and node 2, and then on node 1 also, where is the node 1? At this node 1, ps-ef grep smon. I have my asm1 is running here. I can set .orinv plus asm1 and my grid home crsctl stat resource -t -init. So all my resources are running here on node 2 as well. So node 1 and node 2 cluster setup is done. And then now I can go back to my installation screen and then I can click OK. Right, so once your installation done here, just go back here, this installation screen and click OK. We're gonna do that post checks. Like once the root script done, so almost your installation is done. This is just a post script you want to do it. So now what we can do, we can go to my grid home and then go to bin directory, and then we're going to run asmca. So with this asmca, we're going to create data and then record this group for my database creation. So let it complete, and then we're going to do that one. So it's going to do that verification. At the end, it's going to fail with that, or your run cluff failed, something like that. So that's ignorable. We can ignore and we can proceed further. Right, so doing all these validations. So I can tail that log here. Right? Let's cancel this one, tail this log file here. This one. This is the validation it is doing here. Right, so cluster verification utility failed. So this is expected in our lab. So just click OK, skip, and then yes, that will be done. Close it. So now, as I said, like we can go ahead and quickly create our 2 other disk groups. Already I'm in grid home here using app 19C grid. Go into your bin, LL ASMCA. This is the command line utility ASMCA. Sorry, this your ASM configuration assistant utility. You can launch that. You can create the other 2 disk groups with the remaining 2 disks what we created, disk 2 and disk 3. If I click on this one here, ASM1 and ASM2 both are running on node 1 and node 2. Click on this disk group. You can see OCI disk group, which is mounted on 2 of 2 instances. It is mounted. So you can verify here SU Oracle .inv plus ASM1. So ASMCMD-P LSTG. So I can see mounted my OCI disk group, which is of 3 GB and then which is of external redundancy. So now we're going to create other 2 more disk groups. Create, and then you have 2 more disks here. Select this second disk, which is of 20 GB, and then go with the external redundancy and go with the data as a disk group name. Creating data disk group with that 20 GB with the external redundancy. Right, so you can see data which is mounted on both the nodes. Then if I do LSTG again, so we got data which is of 20 GB, which is of external redundancy. Create other disk and then reco, again external redundancy, create on that. So you have typically high, normal, external. External means no redundancy. Normal means 2 copies, 1 original and 1 duplicate. High means 3 copies, 1 original and 2 duplicate. There's a one more concept of flex storage. Flex storage came in 12C, new 12C feature, that is, you can have mismatch in a single disk group. You can have some portion of disk group is with the external redundancy, some is like high redundancy, some with normal redundancy. Those are like mixed match. You can do that one with that flex storage. So let's do here LSDG. You can see all the 3 disk groups already. Just close this one now. So now I need to create my Oracle home and then install my Oracle home and then create a database. So same thing, I can go mkdir-p /u01 app Oracle product 19.0.0 /db home _1. So this is my DB home. I'm going to create user and app Oracle product 19.0.0.0 DB home. So this is like my DB home. As a Oracle user, I can create it. So right now I'm Oracle user. I can create it on node 1 and then same thing on node 2 as well. I'll put it here. Log into Oracle user, run that Oracle home. Like, I created my Oracle home. Now I need to unzip that. Again, same concept. I'll go to my Oracle VM box here, go to node 1, settings, and then shared folder, go to shared folder, and then I can go to my, this is software location, copy that one, and then add it here. And then I can just mention software as the name, read only, auto mount, then mount it. Okay, the moment I do that one, if I do here node 1, df-h. Yep.
So we can is the only choice for moving the software shared, or you can also use a WinCP?
WinSCP, if you use it, it's going to take a lot of time. You have to copy from your C drive or D drive to your
Right.
VM. It's going to take a lot of time to copy and all. So right now, the moment you do shared drive, automatically the software came here. You need to just unzip that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I'll just go with the root user, but you have to do with the root user because these are all owned by root, the shared folders. I'll go into 19C database software here, ls. So you got your software here. So what I'll do now, I'll unzip with the root user and the same concept how we did for grid home. Unzip, and then I'll unzip directly into my DB home. So this is my DB home -d paste. So this is my, from directly that shared folder, I'll directly go and unzip into my DB home as a root user because these all are owned by root. You cannot do with the Oracle user. So it won't take few minutes. And then once the unzip is done, what you need to do, the same thing what we did for grid home. We need to change that permission. So you have to remove this DB home here. You have to till go here up to this 19.0.0 user on app Oracle product 19.0.0 and go here CD and then later ch own -r Oracle o install and then your DB home _1. So I'm going to change that DB home, that entire thing, directory permission with -r so that inside whatever the files, folders, everything will get changed to Oracle user. Once that is done, so we are gonna go into our Oracle home, DB home _1, and then we're gonna run the run installer. So run installer to install your Oracle home. Once the Oracle home install is done, so we're gonna go into Oracle home bin. So we're gonna run DBCA, database configuration assistant. This is for database creation. We're gonna go ahead and create DevDB. So this unzip is going to take little time because it has to unzip from your C drive to your VM. Right, so unzip is done here. So directly now go into this. I have to change the permission and go here. So LL, I have this DB home one. So if I go inside DB home one, ls-l, so all will be owned by root. So because of that, so I need to go ahead and change the permission of that DB home with the recursively so that inside all the files and folders will get changed to permission for Oracle. Right. So now if I go inside DB home one, so LL, so all got changed to Oracle. So now we are good. So go back to your terminal here. Go into your Oracle home, user on app, Oracle product 19C DB home one. So ls, you can see this run installer, run that run installer. The Oracle home installation is the easiest step. So within few seconds or within 1 or 2 minutes, your Oracle home will be ready. Right, so set up software only. I'm just going to install Oracle software only now. So it will be a real application cluster RAC installation, not a standalone. So by default, it's going to detect your two cluster nodes. I'm going to verify all your like setup and passwordless connection and all those things between these two nodes. Already that Oracle user has that passwordless connection. Right, so passwordless SSH connection, like enterprise edition or standard edition. I'll go with the default enterprise edition and your Oracle base, Oracle home. Right, so now I'll default go with the install for all the groups. So if you want, you can define different group for each of them. but now I'll go with install for everything. And then root script, manually I'll run it. And then it's going to do that, the pre-checks, and then it's going to give the summary. All right, so almost done here. Right, so again, a lot of fail checks here. If you closely observe the clock, NTP we're not using, clock we're not using, this one and this one we can ignore straight away. Scan, it's a known error in our lab, so we can ignore that. Your DNS, again, result.config, we're not use, like, it is a lab setup issue. So we can ignore all of them, not a critical one for this lab setup. But when you do a real time, so you won't face these kind of error messages. So this is a summary page, software only install, base, Oracle home, groups, manual installation, and both the cluster nodes. Save your response file here, and then start with the installation. You're going to do the same thing. It will do that local node installation first. After that, you want to go with the remote node. So this is the log file here. And you can tell this is the log file, right? Tail-f. Right, so you can monitor that log parallelly. Once this is done, it'll automatically go to that node 2 and then going to copy it. So it's going to do that linking libraries here, preparation done, linking library, and then do that setup. Linking library just going to do that soft link and all that Oracle home linking. Saving your inventory, now copying, you can see copying your Oracle home to the remote node, that's Oracle lab 2. Transferring that data from node 1 to your remote nodes. Again, quickly go to node 2 here, cd your Oracle home, ls. You can see your Oracle software is coming here on node 2. %, completed. %. All right, so copying is done. We're going to do that setup on that node 2 and then sync that libraries. Right, so it's asking you to run this root.sh from both the nodes as a root user. I'll run it from node 1. It'll be inside our Oracle home root.sh. Node 1, just enter, done. So node 2 as a root user, just run it, enter, done. So go back and then click OK. Done. Your Oracle home is done here. So next step is once the Oracle home installation is done, you can go ahead and run the DVCA. That will be from your Oracle home and bin. Go to the same terminal here, cd bin. So this is your Oracle home, user on app Oracle product 19C DB home 1 admin LL TBCA. So this is the database configuration assistant tool /DBCA. Right, so your GUI screen, create database. Right, so if you go with the typical here and then mention the DevDB name, it will be default your file system or ASM. I'll go with ASM. Data is for your data file location, reco is for your FRA, archive location, redo logs, your character sets, and password for your sys. And then I'm not going to create it as a container database. I'll go with the normal database. The moment you do the typical options, all these options will be ignored. Directly it's going to go to the summary page. And if you go with the advanced option, you can change it whatever the option you want it. Like you can see it ignored, directly it went into the pre-checks. If needed, you can go back and you can change all these options. Right, so your scan, it's ignorable, and your name resolution, you can ignore all of them. Just ignore and then proceed further. So this one, these are like your response file, your database name, nodes, node 1 and 2. This is a RAC database, your SID, your container database as a no, your ASM storage, and memory management is automatic shared memory management, general purpose, your installation parameter here, and your character set, database character sets, and your data files, and your control files, your redo logs, all of them, right? Just save that response file and then finish that installation. That's going to take few minutes. Let's take this one here. And then I can tell here. This is your DBCA log. And then the moment it starts the database, it's going to start that database alert log. You're going to see that path here. Yeah, I can see your database alert log here. I can take one more duplicate tab here. And then this is your database alert log. Let's going on. Alter database DevDB open reset log. And your database alert log is here. Yeah, a lot of operations at your database side. Let it go on. All right, so that's a wrong message here. Like what we can see, like all of a sudden now it's gonna say that completely it's gonna finish the database creation. Even though it says 39% here, that's progress bar is not accurate. Immediately now you can see that your database installation completed in a few minutes. This is not the accurate one. %, creating a cluster database views. You want to run that cluster database views, create cluster database views logs. Yeah, 67% is now here. Completing your database creation almost at the final step. 71%. And it has created SP file inside your data disk group. Initially, it's gonna use that dummy init file, and then it's gonna start your database. After that, it's gonna create that SP file inside your disk group. Now it is running a util RP to compile that invalid objects. 71% completed. That will be done cleaning up the old AWR reports. Now it's going to do that, shut down your Oracle instance, and it will start with that SP file, which that just now created your SP file inside data disk group. You'll want to start the database with that SP file. You can see here. You're going to shutting down. You're going to shut down your database and it start it now. Right, instance shutdown complete. Now we're going to start our instance back. Right, so if I go all the way up here. Right, so it has started with your Oracle home and your SP file. You can see data devdb parameter file. This is the SP file. It has read the SP file from the data disk group, and then it started your database here now. Right, so almost done. Now we're going to do that post checks. Yeah, it's done now. Database creation completed. You can change the passwords if needed, or just close it. Go back here. PSF grep Asm. You have devdb1. PSF grep Asm. You have devdb2. So both the instances are up and running. You can .inv plus asm and your asm home here. crctl stat resource -t. So we're going to give you that entire cluster resource, your listener, your chad net1, ONS, your ASM net listener, your data disk group, your scan listener 1, 2, 3, your OCR disk group, your record disk group, and then your ASM instance, and your ASM net1 network, and your CVU, and your devdb. That's a database what we created, which is in open mode, and your node 1 VIP, node 2 VIP, and your QoMS server that for fleet fetching, and your scan 1, 2, 3, your scan VIPs. And then quickly I can connect to Oracle.inv. I can run devdb1 and then my Oracle home. This is my Oracle home. And then srvctl status database -d devdb. So this is my devdb instance 1, instance 2, both are running on node 1 and node 2. Only thing is, starting with 19c, Oracle is not updating Oratab entries. So we need to manually add the entries. Like for example, this is like post checks or the post step we need to do it. Instance 1 with Oracle home. And then auto start, make it as a no. Similarly, we're going to do that instance 2. And then same thing goes to your ASM also, like I'm going to add it here. ASM1, auto restart. There is the grid DOM. Here is the grid DOM. So these two entries you have to manually add it on both the node 1 and node 2 Oratab entries. And so I'll just add them in node 1. PI ctc Oratab. Right, so same thing goes to your node 2 as well. PI/ctc Oratab.
Is it plus item plus or not?
Oh yeah, that's a plus. That's good catch. All right, so let's add it back here one more time. All right, so that's it. So that's a quick installation of grid setup for 2 nodes. Let's stop it here, guys. So we'll connect tomorrow with our regular classes and we can continue. Thank you all. Anybody has any questions before we wind up?
Yeah, you're gonna be posting this, right, sir?
Oh yeah, you can watch this video or anytime.
Yeah, it was hectic. I'll need to start from the first one. to this
All right,
one.
I can share that. I'll be uploading
Right.
it in our shared drive. You can watch it.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right,
Good
guys.
night.
So anybody has any questions before we wind up, or else we'll see you in our tomorrow's class. All right. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, sir.